Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Cranky Gun Reviews. And today's video, I wanted to do a little video on the top 5 most disappointing guns that I've bought and used over the years. Some of these I still have, some of them I don't have. Most of them I've gotten rid of, but I've been kind of struggling for what to put out for content recently, mostly because I haven't had a lot of time to get to the range. And this is one of those videos I've been wanting to make for quite a while, just talking about some of the reasons why I got rid of some of the guns that I got rid of over time. So let's go ahead and jump into the top 5 most disappointing guns that I've bought and owned. Number 5, the Citadel Boss 25 12-gauge semi-automatic shotgun.
I don't know if I should be worried or not, though, because at the factory, they put the sights on backwards. They should be spun around the other way. That's not a big deal.
The biggest complaint I had about this shotgun when I took it to the range is that it has a lot of recoil because the recoil impulse is straight back like an AR-15, unlike a traditional shotgun where the force kind of goes back and down at an angle.
And what I realized the last time I shot this cover at the end of the barrel loosens up after so many rounds, so I have to keep snugging that thing down. I'm not sure if that's something I have to worry about. Maybe once it gets hot, it'll start to tighten up and it won't loosen again.
Well, I hate to say it, but by the end of this day, I had convinced myself that this is not a gun that I want to keep. It's just not very fun to shoot. It really pounds your shoulder. And again, I've said it in other videos, I'm not a wimp, but when it comes to shooting, if you're going to shoot a lot, you have to shoot something you enjoy, and you have to really like the gun that you have. So this one is actually going to get sold to a buddy of mine very soon.
Number 4, the Bear Creek Arsenal AR-410 Upper, and this is one that I still own, but I had a lot of growing pains with this shotgun. Now I said I do still own this one, or actually I own a variant of this. The very first one I got was pretty poor condition when I got it. The machine work on it was terrible, the finish wasn't very good, and it didn't function.
I'm going to try single loading around into the chamber. I'll get it started part way, throw the bolt, and you may not be able to see from back there, but the bolt doesn't close all the way. I can actually stick my finger in front of the charging handle. There's about a ½ inch between the bolt being able to rotate close.
I tried a couple of fixes on this myself. I basically put an O-ring under the top of the extractor so that it would allow the extractor to go over the rim of the shotgun shell, which fixed the problem to a point, but it still did not allow the gun to function properly, and I had lots of issues with the magazines on this. Basically, it wasn't allowing it to strip the rounds off the top of the magazine. The magazines were getting jammed in the lower receiver. So over time, I ended up sending the upper back to Bear Creek. They sent me a new one that was machined much better with a better bolt in it, and I sanded all my magazines down so they load into the gun properly, and the gun does function much better, but it's still not perfect.
So starting off, second magazine. Doesn't like to strip that first round off the magazine, but the bolt does close freely now. It closes on the shell, and so far, well, the feed issue isn't necessarily solved, but that's probably more of a magazine problem. I think that's a magazine issue.
Number 3, the High Point 995 TS Pro. Now this one, I was kind of embarrassed when I bought it. I bought this thing, I don't know, back in 2016, and I never even showed it on my channel. I took it out to the range on 3 or 4 occasions. I probably put 350 rounds through it, and just about everything about this gun I disliked. I disliked the recoil pad on the buttstock. I disliked the trigger. The magazines only came in 10 round capacity, but mine did come with 3. If you want more rounds, you got to buy one of these stupid red ball magazines, which stick way out the bottom of the gun, which are absolutely ridiculous. The sights on this thing weren't that great. I had to drift my rear sight all the way to the left to get it centered, and that made me OCD, so I ended up putting it back in the center, and then I twisted my front sight off to the side a little bit more so that my front and rear sights were at least aligned correctly. But I really did not like shooting that gun, and I ended up selling it very shortly after I bought it. The one good thing I will say about the Hi-Point 995 TS Pro, it was very reliable. I never had a jam or a malfunction with it. I just didn't like it.
All guns have clips.
Moving on
don't
next,
they?
number
Well, I
2
couldn't
is
find a
the
clip
Bond Arms
that would
Derringer that I
hold more
have in
rounds for my
45 long
double-barrel
Colt and
shotgun to make it
410.
easier to
I did
reload.
kind of buy this as
So
a
I made
novelty.
one.
It's not
This is
something
such
that
an
I carry
ingenious
because
clip.
it's really kind
So
of
basically, what
cumbersome
you
and
do with
heavy and
this, you
clunky.
break open the
And
barrel,
really, it's a good
and then
close distance gun. You know, again, shooting 410 shotgun shells
that's
out
a
of it,
bummer.
I thought it
Let's
was
see
going to
which
be a little
barrel I'm
bit
on
better than
here.
it was. But even shooting 45 long Colt out of this thing, I am just really not very accurate with this gun. So even though it's cool and I like it because it's a Derringer and I wanted it because I've seen them in movies for many, many years and they're very historic guns, I just don't shoot it very well, and therefore that's really why it's something that I'm a little bit disappointed
This is
in.
the Rough and Rowdy 410 45 long Colt. Let's see how we do here. That's worse than it exploding.
Now, I mentioned in my first video of 2024 my plans for this year. I do want to get some additional barrels for this eventually, maybe a 9mm, maybe a 38 357 barrel, and that might make it a little bit more appealing to me. I might shoot it a little more frequently, but realistically to me, again, this is still just a novelty gun, but I'm not going to get rid of it. I know a lot of people complain that I kind of bash this thing. I don't think it's a bad gun for what it is. It's good for a backup. I just would not personally carry this thing as a primary carry gun.
The microphone on the camera really does not do this justice. Those 1/5 ounce slugs packed a wallop and they sounded like a huge hand cannon.
And the number one most disappointing gun that I've ever had is my Colt Series 80 Mark IV Government 380. And I've done a whole bunch of videos on this thing. If you really want to know the troubles I had with this gun, you can go back and watch them. But the long and short of it was I traded in 2 fully functional guns for this thing just because it looks awesome. And it's a Colt, so I thought it was going to be a fantastic firearm. This particular one was a lemon. And I know, again, this is a sample size of 1. This is not indicative of every Colt Government 380 that's out there, but the one that I had, I did everything I possibly could to make this gun better. I changed every spring in the gun. I polished the feed ramp. I polished the chamber in the gun. I cleaned it religiously. I changed all the magazine springs and everything like that. I bought new magazines. Nothing I did to this gun made it run properly. I did everything that everybody suggested to make this gun work well, and it was just disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. And I had about $700 invested in the gun, plus another $250, almost $300 invested in extra magazines, extra springs, and the time that I had put in this thing. And I tried various different types of ammo, round nose, flat nose, hollow point. The only thing that ever ran great in this gun 100% of the time was Hornady Critical Defense or Critical Duty, which has the ballistic tip and a very truncated pointy nose on it. Those worked great, but at $30 for 20 rounds, there is no way I could shoot those enough to practice and become proficient with this gun because it was too cost prohibitive, and every other type of ammo that I found that I shot in this gun after a couple of magazines would start jamming. Now, the funny thing was I went on a bunch of Colt forums and talked to people, and everybody said that their Colt Government 380 was perfect, but when I pressed them for how many rounds they shot a year, they would say about 25 rounds a year. Well, 25 rounds a year might be great, but my guns, when I take them out to the range, I put hundreds of rounds through them. I need to make sure that that gun is going to be 100% reliable if I ever want to carry that gun for personal protection, and this gun just failed me time after time after time. So ultimately, I had to give up on it and sell it, and it was a disappointment because it's a very nice gun. It just was not a good version of this particular gun. And again, I know that not every Colt Government 380 is going to be bad, not every Colt Mustang is going to be bad, but this particular one left a terrible taste in my mouth. And even though I still like these guns, I may not ever get another one.
More through it.
Now again, I mentioned that I did all kinds of work to this. You can see the feed ramp is polished from the inside of the chamber, also the outside of the barrel I polished, so this thing was smooth as could possibly be. That really made no difference whatsoever, and again, it didn't matter if it was a round nose or a truncated nose or a flat point. It just didn't seem to matter no matter what I shoot in this thing. After about 50 rounds, it would start getting jammed up and it would have the same issues over and over again.
I think that just made my mind up. I mean, after about 50 rounds, it started, I don't know if it's because it's hot or what, or if it started getting dirty. But after about 50 rounds, it started doing the same exact thing. And actually, I had worse issues. I had double feeds. I had rounds popping right out of it. I just can't spend any more time and money on this gun. I think I'm going to have to sell it. That's unfortunate because it's such a nice gun. But sometimes that's the way it is. We'll see how it goes.
So that's going to do it for this edition of Cranky Gun Reviews. Thanks for joining me again. Drop a comment down below with your most disappointing handgun or rifle or shotgun. I'd like to know what you guys like and dislike. And if you want to comment on why you think the guns that I chose to be disappointing are not disappointing, go ahead and leave a comment down below. I welcome the conversation. Have a great day. God bless America. Support your 2A rights. Get out there and shoot. And you remember, if someone asks you to give up some of your freedom for the greater good, remind them that freedom is the greater good.